Why do helicopters seem to crash so often? Helicopters are used across a wide variety of industries, from holiday sightseeing on a chartered flight to emergency evacuation after a disaster. With helicopter use increasing every year, the accident rate has increased steadily as well, and when a helicopter crashes, those on board almost always suffer life-threatening injuries. Some of the major factors responsible for helicopter crashes are: manufacturing defect. All aircraft have to be designed and constructed in a way that ensures pilot and passenger safety. However, some helicopters are made with cheap or untested materials, while others are flawed before their construction even begins. When this happens, helicopter designers and manufacturers can be held liable in a product liability claim. Component failure. Even if a helicopter is designed and assembled without defects, the craft relies on many component parts and systems working together. Any part that is replaced, installed, or fitted on the aircraft has the potential to fail, putting occupants at risk during flight. Common malfunctioning helicopter components include electrical systems, seat belt and safety harnesses, and rotor system. Pilot error. The vast majority of helicopter accidents involve some form of pilot error. This can include loss of aircraft control, improper training, failure to recognize a potential crash situation, or flying while intoxicated, distracted, or overtired. Pilots may also place profits over safety, agreeing to take on passengers despite adverse weather conditions. Poor maintenance. Helicopters are highly sophisticated piece of machinery, and their repair and maintenance require special skills. Unfortunately, an owner may attempt to cut costs by outsourcing their maintenance to mechanics who do not have experience or knowledge of certain type of aircraft. After a crash occurs, an inquiry attorney can determine who is liable for quality control, regular maintenance, routine inspections, and whether an unsafe or untested craft was placed in service. Air traffic control negligence. Air traffic controllers are vital to helicopter operations, and they need to stay in constant contact and provide necessary and reliable information to pilots. If an air traffic controller provides outdated or incorrect weather information to pilot, or was not properly trained on ground-based radar guides, or failed to provide a pilot with relevant details before or during the flight, he or she may be named in an injury lawsuit. Other land-based parties such as the helicopter pad owner or operator, owner of the airfield, or control tower operator could also share liability. Obstructions. Helicopter rotors striking an object account for a startlingly high number of crashes. The helicopter blades may make contact with trees, radio and cell phone towers, and even mountains or buildings. A helicopter that flies too close to a power line, telephone wire, or cable risks entanglement with rotors that can cause the craft to land suddenly in an unsuitable location. Entanglement crashes can occur even when weather conditions are clear and are likely to involve pilot negligence. Government or contractor negligence. Military helicopters often differ for charter flights in their construction and operation. Medical helicopters, relief vehicles, and military helicopters used for evacuation or fast deployment of staff may be used in dangerous areas or for door-off flights, increasing the risks of accident. To make matters worse, the government will want to perform its own internal investigation after a military helicopter crash, making it more difficult for victims and their families to identify the true cause of the accident. Some other factors are: helicopters are simply more difficult to fly than airplanes, especially once they are in a hover. Helicopters are somewhat unstable in hover, especially once they leave something called ground effect. Basically, if you are a certain distance from the ground, you get a nice cushion that makes it super easy to hover. Once you leave this ground effect, you lose a lot of stability. Airplanes don't have this issue. Airplanes also have more redundancies built into them. Whereas with many especially older helicopters that are commonly used for utility work, They do not have such system backups. Helicopters also simply cost a lot to operate. They guzzle fuel because they rely on an active system, the rotor, to generate lift. Whereas airplanes rely on a passive system, the wings, to generate lift. Since helicopter operations tend to make less of a profit than airlines do, they tend to have less time and money to spend on maintenance. Not only that, helicopter pilots in many fields are overworked more than a fixed wing pilot would be. So, tiredness is a huge factor. Helicopters also tend to operate at low altitudes than most airplanes and operate under VFR more often than many airplanes. So, due to this lower operation altitude, helicopters are more susceptible to environmental crashes such as striking power lines. There are many other reasons why helicopters have higher accident rates than airplanes do. No matter whether a helicopter is used for private transportation, military maneuvers, traffic news, air ambulance, or transportation to offshore locations, each flight will require a competent pilot and a capable aircraft. If the helicopter does not arrive at its destination safely, victims and loved ones have a right to seek compensation for the costs of medical bills, lost incomes, and wrongful death.